WW7ATS, Jessica.
Good evening. This is the Western Washington Amateur Television Society net on the 08 machine. I'm Dave, KD7ZYM. The Western Washington Amateur Television Society is a group of amateur radio enthusiasts that get together for a television net held on Wednesdays and Saturdays between 8 and 9 o'clock. We'd like to thank the SeaTac Repeater Association for allowing us to use WW7STR's repeater 147.08 for our nets with a specific tone of 103.5 for the net. Also, if you want to find out more about the Western Washington Amateur Television Society, Google WW7ATS. That's Google WW7ATS. That will take you to our homepage. There you'll find the frequencies we operate in, a little bit of the history of our unit, and also a link that'll take you to YouTube where we stream our nets. So with that, I'll pause in case anybody has emergency traffic or needs to make a contact before our net gets fully underway. This is Dave, KD7ZYM. Hearing none, checked into the net by a video is K9PQ Bomb, Wade W7ITL, James WU7N, myself Dave KD7ZYM, and I see Richard is with us tonight, K7ITX. Is there anybody else that would like to check into the net?
UHK.
Suffix NHK, can you come again?
7UHK.
KF7UHK, welcome aboard. Okay, let's get our net rolling here. We'll start off with Jessica, KF7UHK.
Is finally coming around the corner. We had about a week and a half of fall, and now it's darn right cold out there. Because Sylvia worked today, I went up to Mount Vernon and set up a camera and watched the moon rise over the hills. And right now I'm processing that video on my computer as we speak. And so that's kind of what I've done today. Oh, and I baked a frozen apple pie, which just smells delicious on a nice cool day today. I finally turned on the heaters here in the little condo because it's time for that. That's what I've got here in Everett. This is KF7 USK.
UHK, let's go to Bob in Bothell, K9PQ.
Okay, well, good evening. I've had my furnace on for about 4 or 5 days now, maybe a little longer, and I just realized as it's drying out the air, I need to get my humidifier going, and I have no humidifier filter. I think they call it a filter, but it's actually when you keep it wet, and it's what moistens the air as it blows or is sucked through it. So that's on order. That's coming Monday, and we'll get things back to normal here. But for now, I have to be careful of sending shocks to my kitty if I'm walking on the carpet and then go to pet her, she'll get a shock. let's see what else. Huskies won tonight. It was closer than it should have been. They were playing Stanford, who is not, you know, I would have said they're not very good, but they played well tonight. Their offense was very good and their defense was good enough, but we pulled out a win 42-33. I'd say we, because of course I play on the team, but anyway, yeah, I guess I'll leave. I have a toy to show you. I'll leave that for the next time around, so I'll send it back to Net. K9PQ.
K9PQ, let's go to Richard, K7ITX in Kent.
All right. Well, good to see everybody. So yeah, I caught the tail end of the Huskies, and yeah, no, you're right, Bob. It was a lot closer than, like you said, it should have been. But Stanford, that's what happens when you're the hottest team around. Everybody, you got a target on your back, and it seems like everybody tries to rise to the occasion. So now we got, I guess, the Arizona Diamondbacks are soon going to have the target on their back. So I guess they won today in the World Series. And so we got the Seahawks tomorrow. Let's see, I think they're playing Cincinnati. I don't know. Cincinnati or Cleveland. Cleveland. Okay. No, I'm glad they're playing Cleveland, not Cincinnati. But you never know. I mean, it's any given Sunday is how it goes. So anyway, well, we'll see where the Net takes us tonight. I'm kind of curious. And hi, Jessica. I haven't heard you in a long time. Or what am I saying? I mean, in a while. I mean, long time that's all relative, of course. So anyway, good. And apple pie, yeah, I'll have a piece. K7ITX back to Net Control.
K7ITX, let's go to Tacoma to Wade, W7ITL.
All right, I guess I was talking on mute. So, yeah, today's been a pretty busy day for me, so I'm not going to say too much tonight. Just say it's nice seeing everybody. And let's see, besides work stuff, I've been dealing with the store with my sister-in-law and got a couple records. And besides that, just enjoying the sunshine, even though it's a little bit cold. So with that said, this is my 73, and I'll see you guys again soon.
Wade, show your T-shirt. Thank you.
Oh my, very interesting. Let's go to James, WU7N.
Well, I think last Wednesday I had an exciting homeowners meeting. Wish all of you could have been there. You don't wish you could have been there. Actually, no, I love my neighbors. They're great. It's just we get into some goofy discussions sometimes, and you just have to kind of go with it. My hot water heater now has what's called an expansion tank, and you can see the suggested location is to hang straight down. but the optional location is pointing straight up. Well, I looked at several neighbors, and they were all pointing, you know, on the upside of the pipe, and I have no saddle valve or any recirculation system or any heating. So I thought, well, if all these professional plumbers put it in on the topsy side, I'm going to go ahead and put mine on the topsy side since the instructions say you can do that. But as you can see, what the expansion tank does is it's a big bladder of air, and I had to buy a little valve, a little pressure measuring device, and connect to my water supply to figure out what my water pressure was, and then you pressurize this tank to that exact same pressure. And so now it's something else to check along with smoke alarm batteries and everything else you check annually, like, you know, to make sure, I guess, the pressure is correct in there. The hot water tank is guaranteed for 12 years. The expansion tank is only guaranteed for 5 years. And the last hot water tank was guaranteed for 12 years and lasted 12 years and 4 months. There's a little cyber clock in there that counts the time down or not. I don't know if I already whined to the group about this, but it failed in a most spectacular manner. All the ones I've helped with my neighbors, there have been a few over the past few years of COVID, they all made a very polite little puddle on the ground, and they said, "Jim, can you look at this?" And I go, "Ah!" And I immediately, you know, turn the gas off, turn the water off, connect a hose, drain it as quickly as possible, and you know, and then explain to them that that little puddle on the ground is a hot water heater's way of saying can't hold on much longer. Mine, however, skipped that step and turned into an indoor garden sprinkler, high-capacity indoor garden sprinkler, suitable for watering crops in the Mezzanine Valley. The good news is I was home when it happened, and, you know, it was one of those odd moments. I just finished eating. I had 2 recycle items in my hand. I was going out to my garage, and I was walking that direction. I'm going, "That's odd. What's that sound?" It sounds like a fire hydrant going off somewhere outside. And as soon as I opened the door, all the noise came in, and then I ran over and turned it off. Of course, I also, pro tip here, if it's worth saving, you should have it in large plastic boxes. Don't put anything in a cardboard box that you consider of value. I actually came out okay. I immediately started salvage operations, and I filled up an entire recycling container with the boxes and packing material and such, but it was a little painful. I guess I'd been procrastinating, putting off a lot of going through some of those boxes, and now that they were soaking wet, it was either go through them or just throw the whole thing in the trash. So I did, and saved quite a bit. Let's see. Oh, Jessica, yes. Time for heaters. It's only 31 degrees up here. I assume it's much, much colder up there, or we'll all give you the wimp rating. I mean, why would you turn on heating just because it's 1 degree below freezing? And these are Fahrenheit degrees, which are like smaller than centigrade real man degrees. So anyway, you can comment on that when it's your turn. This is James, WW7N, hanging out in Northeast Bellevue. Go ahead, Dave.
Thanks with that. Oh my, what a chilly day it is. Here in Lake City I got 40 degrees, it's clear and cold, and I just say, it is cold. Today I ignited the gas logs in my fireplace and enjoyed a little bit of fireplace viewing this afternoon while I was listening to some music and catching up on some reading. And then I watched the Oregon football game. Oregon won, naturally, and that was a pretty good game. So that's about pretty much what I've done today. So this is Dave, KD7CYM in Lake City. Oh, I might add that I had no problems with my RSV shot. Everything seemed to have gone fine with that, no side effects. So now I've got the 3 shots out of the way for now. So I guess it's about another 10 days till it all sets in, and I'll still be wearing masks for at least forever, it seems like. So with that, let's go back up to Jessica, KF7UHK.
Things you learn on TV. There's a show I watch every now and then. I think it's called The Pioneer Woman, and she's a lady who married someone who owns, 500,000 acres, something like that, down in like Oklahoma, and cattle herds, and so she has this cooking show because she wrote some cooking books, and one day she showed how to make caramel sauce, and I saved that episode so I can go watch that part where she makes the caramel sauce and see how she does. I think it just needs some half and half, some brown sugar, and cook it all down with a little bit of water in there, and it'll all turn into caramel sauce, a little salt. So I got to go back and watch that and try to make some caramel sauce for my apple pie that I made tonight. That's my big plan next. Otherwise, I think that's what I got for now. Camp 7HK.
HK, oh, sounds like a nice low-cal dessert. Let's go to Bob, K9PQ.
Well, hello again. So first of all, yes, James, the flooding. I may have mentioned it on this net before. I experienced this once in Chicago, and it was devastating to me. I had a bunch of boxes stored in the basement of a house that I was renting with some other people, and there was a torrential downpour that started flowing into the basement that I noticed very early in the morning as I was leaving to go to the airport for a week to be with my family. So a week later I came back to boxes that had been sitting wet, and I almost lost everything, pretty much lost everything. I saved a couple of posters that I had in frames that were sitting on the ground that now have water lines going, slightly above, but they were sentimental value, so I saved them. Anyway, so this turn I want to talk about my new toy, which I think you can probably see pretty well. Uh-oh, something switched over on YouTube. Can you check that, James? It's showing the inside of our repeater room right now. There we go. That's back. So this is some buttons and a dial that turns up here with a button in it, and it has a Bluetooth connection to my computer, and I can use it to do key combinations. It's got a little program that goes with it, and it was designed is by XP Pen, and it's designed for they make professional drawing tools for designers, and this is just an accessory for their drawing tools. But this is going to be my new toy that I use with this net. So instead of reaching over as I do, reaching over that way to my main computer, I will be able to, and I have to click on some buttons on the screen. I'm using another program called Auto Hotkey. I haven't got all this working yet, but it should work in theory. This other program called Auto Hotkey that will accept the hotkey combinations from this device when I push a button, and then click a virtual button on the screen inside a window. So by next Saturday, I'm going to be not on the net on Wednesday, but by next Saturday, hopefully I'll have all that working. I can show it off to you. Okay, well that's good for now. I'll send it back. K9PQ.
K9PQ, thanks for that. Well, let's go to Kent, to Richard, K7ITX.
Okay, well, yeah, Bob, that's very impressive. Gosh, it's a lot to learn. But, so what? That's the whole idea, isn't it? Yeah. Boy, and talk about learning and then forgetting. I just experienced a complete lapse of memory with respect to logging into my router. It was so weird, well, to try to make a long story short, I had a new doorbell camera, well, new to me, a Christmas present that's 3 years old, but it was a doorbell camera that goes through your router, and so it's on the internet, or at least to your phone and all that good stuff. Except for the fact that it was always disconnecting and reconnecting over and over, like once every minute or 2 minutes, it would say successfully connected, or successfully connected to the network. Successfully connected to the network. And, when you got the TV going and things going on, you can't really hear it. But in the morning when you get up and you're just having a nice quiet cup of coffee, so finally I just said, forget this, and turned it off completely. But I like the idea of being able to see, my front porch remotely. Can't really look out a window and see it very good, so it just seems like a good idea. And so, of course, we went to Amazon, and WW7ATS ordered it, and we've already got it. And my daughter's recommended one, and so I'm looking for it. And it's battery operated, so there's no, the other one we had to hook up to the doorbell power that, which came with the house. This is fully, battery operated, and so, and if my daughter swears by it, and I'm the one that taught her how to do things, so hopefully I don't have to get into the router. It'll just, find and automatically do everything, kind of like a plug and play. It was pretty embarrassing, though, to not how to get into the router, and in fact, the last time I did anything complicated like that is, 5 or 6 years ago when I hooked up the Grand Stream. You had to do all that, and when you do it quite a few times, it just comes automatically. But if you haven't done it for 5 or 6 years, holy moly! I'm just glad I had really good notes, especially the password. Jeez, yeah, I mean, my God, the password. Of course. Sure, I had the password. You type it. Usually, it's admin is the username, and then the password might be admin or password. And so I did password, nope. And so, okay, the second try, I did what I thought was my password that I had written down in my notes, and I was right. So I ended up making a guest connection for the Wi-Fi for the remote, for the one that I'm not going to use anymore, but for the doorbell that I just thought maybe it was competing with other devices, and so but it still did it. I mean, but I was happy to be able to at least change the router and do a couple things without ruining everything. Doesn't take much to disconnect all your equipment if you make one little slightly wrong mistake. So anyway, 26 degrees here this morning. So that was really cold. And what else is going on? Oh, and then you're talking about all the flooding. You may remember a year or two, probably about 5 years ago, when my washing machine just started. Well, it overflowed. I didn't think that was possible with the washing machine. And, but when you kept hearing the water going and going and going and going, I go, what? Wait a minute. So I go down there, water, there's about a good 4 inches of water up past the baseboard trim in the laundry room. It started coming out and onto the carpet. It was just a scary nightmare, and I ended up having to vacuum with with a carpet cleaner, of all things, to get the water out of there. So anyway, that's my nightmare flooding story. K7ITX, back to net control.
K7ITX, and this is the Western Washington Amateur Television Society Net. I'm Dave, KD7CYM. Let's go to James and Bellevue, WU7N.
WU7N, Northeast Bellevue. And Bob, your toy reminds me of the famous quote, "I'm not bad, I'm just drawn that way." So I bet you're the most likely candidate to know who said that and in what movie. And I saw a silhouette on someone's car that said, "I'm not bad, I just drive that way," and had that silhouette on the car too. So I thought that was humorous. Let's see. I found, Richard, my memory has improved immensely since I started becoming a note-taking fanatic. Bob, it was Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Now, what was the character's name who said that? Oh, yes, that's a tough one, the head scratcher there. Jessica Rabbit was married to Roger, yeah, and she was the voluptuous bomb that said, "I'm not bad, I'm just drawn that way." Yeah, my problem now is, like this time for the hot water heater project, I figured, wow, it wasn't this hard 12 years and 4 months ago. And it certainly wasn't this expensive. You know, that $350 hot water heater, now it's $900 plus tax. That's how much the stuff has gone up. And like little brass fittings, I found that fascinating. Home Depot didn't even have them, at least not out on the shelf. And I asked the guy, I go, is that because the junkies are stealing all the copper and brass? And he just kind of grumbled at me. They have cast iron, galvanized cast iron, and galvanized rolled steel, which is code, and that's fine for potable water, but I just didn't want to use those, so I ended up driving to McClendon's in Renton, and Home Depot messed up my order. I got there, and they had lost everything, and the guy that screwed it all up, his response was to laugh and say, "I'm going to lunch." I'm glad I don't manage that guy, because if he was my subordinate, I would probably pull him aside and say, "We have a safety issue here." You know, at that time, I probably didn't look very nice. I'm not sure I had shaved. I probably didn't smell real nice, and I was wearing kind of ratty clothes. And, you know, here you have some guy who tells you the truck's coming to pick everything up, and you just screwed up and lost everything. I wouldn't do that. That just doesn't sound like good survival behavior, does it? It's best to let Darwin and nature take their course, though. I didn't say anything. I figure the next person he does that to will react appropriately. You have a doorbell now. Now what you need are water alarms all over your house. I definitely am going to upgrade, because it's as scary as anything if this had happened when I was away. Now, I'm not sure what I would have done. I guess frantically call all my neighbors and tell them to come and turn off the water. The next step is to have the water alarms automatically turn the water off, and that would be a next step up. But I decided something that just makes lots of noise isn't enough. You need something that calls you on the phone and makes lots of noise. And if it makes lots of noise, I can probably build something like a 556 filter circuit to listen for the noise, and then maybe get a solenoid to fire or something to turn the water off. I'll have to think about this engineering project. I'll keep you all stay in touch and in tune with this. Let me turn it back to Dave, our net control for the Western Washington Amateur Television Society. My name is James, WU7N in Northeast Bellevue.
WU7N, this is Dave, KD7CYM, and this is the Western Washington Amateur Television Society net. Well, we were talking about passwords and keeping track. I've got a folder that I keep all my passwords in and usernames, and that came in handy this last week. I recently got an iPad and got that all signed on, and then they did an update on me about 4 days ago, and the new system came in, and I had to reevaluate everything. I had to put in passcodes, Apple passwords, and then I wanted to get to YouTube, and then I had to have a Google account name and password, And so I was able to get that out of the book, and at least I'm up and running again on my iPad. So, boy, you just have to keep records of everything. And then also on the pad, I have notations of what are the steps to go through to sign on different things and where to go to. And that's my go-to book. So that's what I've been up to. And like I say, I enjoyed the fireplace today as I was watching the logs burn in the gas fireplace and then doing some reading. So with that, I'm going to take it back up to the top to Jessica, KF7UHK.
UHK, no, your gas fire logs probably at the touch of a switch sound really, really lovely. My flooding story, and I've had a few, because people upstairs have had water problems, and it's affected us down here in the condo, and we had a water heater expansion thing go this last year, which we've replaced everything, the water heater and the expansion thing. But we used to, our house down at Aquila, we used to have a basement, and we had a sump pump in the basement. I don't know why we ever bought this place, but it was, you know, it was the right price and in the right area of town where I was working anyhow. And you'd hear the sump pump run about every 10 minutes. Just had the sound that kind of go rumble, 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 and it'd be done. And it would rumble for maybe 10 seconds, maybe tops. Well, one night I woke up and I hadn't been hearing that sound. And it was just after a windstorm, or I think it was a windstorm the next day. But I thought, you know, I'm just gonna peek down there and see if everything's okay. Went downstairs, and there was probably like at least 4 inches on our basement floor, and it wouldn't run out naturally. So the next day I went down to probably Home Depot, because Lowe's wasn't probably invented yet, and bought myself another sump pump just to be able to throw into the hole in a garden hose out the back garage door. And it probably took, you know, several hours to pump out all the water. Luckily, it really didn't damage anything, because everything downstairs was up above the floor level, because we knew that one day this was going to happen. But that was, I think they told us later that we bought into an area called 1,000 Springs. It's like, great, I didn't know that. And I almost thought, you know, maybe if I could somehow have used that water for gardening, or, you know, growing green leafy things downstairs with that water. I don't know. I don't think it was that clean, but that's my story. I'm going to check out of here right now, give you a 73, because Sylvia's about to walk in the door, and we'll see you next time, probably next Saturday. This is Jessica, KF7UHK.
UHK, let's go to Bob, K9PQ.
Hey, well, let's see, I had a couple notes that I didn't get to last time because I was showing off my new toy. So Richard, for your passwords, I use a password manager, and I'm quite happy with it. And I put things other than passwords in, specifically when it comes to routers. There's a lot of details I put in there about, you know, what settings I should have and things like that. So it's kind of a nice place just to collect things like that, even if they're not necessarily something that has to be kept secure. It's the one place I go to where I know to find certain things. So that's always a good thing. But as long as you know where you keep all those notes, and Dave, you with yours, I used to tell people that I didn't think keeping passwords on paper was secure, because I was sort of taught that in an office environment. It's certainly not in an office environment, but, you know, for home, I think it's maybe about the most secure, because, you know, nobody's going to, hijack your computer and get all your passwords if they're on paper in your desk drawer instead. So I have come full circle on that. I think passwords on paper is a good idea for if that's your preference. For me, the one thing I like about the password manager is it runs on my phone as well as on my computer, so I can access things from my phone that require a password when I'm away from home, so it's handy. So I'm not going to go back to paper. I'm going to stick with the password manager, but I no longer advise against it. James, yeah. So what you described with your encounter at Home Depot, that is my sort of that's how I think of karma. You know, I don't think of karma as, oh, the universe is going to get you back. I think of karma as, if you do something bad to me, you're going to eventually do something bad to somebody who will get you back. So that's how I view karma. And it helps me sleep at night. I don't know if they ever will get caught, but at least I feel better about myself that I didn't do anything bad to them, but probably somebody will. Okay, I'll send it back to Ned. K9PQ.
PQ, Mr. Secure. Let's go to Richard, K7ITX.
Oh boy, you know, karma. Bob, I've had, you know, similar thoughts before, just like you. But it's kind of frightening. It hasn't been like karma as much as someone would do something not real nice to me, and maybe it wouldn't be that long, or something really bad. You'd read about it in a newspaper or something. It might, like this one guy called me on the carpet. Well, wait, he wanted to build like the Crystal Cathedral in somewhere in downtown Portland area, and so he just wanted me to give a thumbnail price, you know, based on this sketch, and I wouldn't do it. You know, it was way too complicated. I just wouldn't do it. And he just got so mad that when I got back to the office, he had called my boss, and my boss called me on the carpet. And well, I told him, you know, that this is anything we ever do. You know, this is, you know, we don't, you know, there's engineering. You don't even know what he wants will even work. And well, sadly, you know, about 2 weeks later, and it fit his personality that he was a pilot, single engine, or, you know, small plane, let me just put it that way, flew off somewhere over the Pacific Ocean off the Oregon coast, and never to be seen again. So, you know, and I have, sadly, a couple other acquaintances like that. Too numerous to mention, actually, and enough to kind of give me the willies, so to speak. So I always hope that people will be nice to me, because I got this weird, you know, I'll just leave it at that. So, I mean, you saw that, maybe, I don't know if you did, Bob, but that picture with Mika and her glowing eyes next to my mom right after she died, you know, and so, it's just weird stuff like that. It's kind of bizarre. So anyway, Zump Pump, I grew up with a Zump Pump. You know, it was my dad built a full basement back. This is a house he started building back in the early 60s, and full basement. We were getting ready for a nuclear holocaust, and so that was going to be the, you know, the bomb shelter. But I don't know. And then he had the wash machine down there, and he drained the wash machine into the I don't know what you call it, the pit or whatever, and then the Zump Pump would then pump the water up out into the drain field. We weren't on a sewer. We're, you know, a septic system, and it would just, you know, bypass septic, and, or I don't know, maybe it did go right. Of course it went right into the septic. But, yeah, no, I know all about Zump Pumps, and passwords, yeah, no, yeah, Bob, with a lot of notes, like my password that I needed for the router was with all my notes regarding the router and the Grand Stream hookup, and boy, you know, 'cause I have so many other passwords that are I use all the time, are way more important than that. And, well, the router password is important. And so, now that I think about it, I think it's going to get into the master book of passwords now. So that doesn't ever turn into a big disaster. So, geez. And if it makes it around to me one more time, I'll give you my sad medical stories that I have coming up next week. K7ITX, back to net control.
ITX, let's go to James, WU7N.
James, you're keying up, but we just don't hear anything. It's silent. Back to you, K9PQ.
Any better? Oh, well, not sure what happened there. This mic button could be getting old and tired. Well, I was going to say, Jessica's probably gone by now, but never buy a house that includes a sump pump. That's a hint. But I remember I looked at a house, gosh, it was over on the east side somewhere around, I think, Pine Lake out there, and it had this, I don't know how you would even describe it. It looked like the inside of a ship, like the boiler rooms on a ship down in the basement. And I was told that was just to get the sewage uphill. I said, wow, what's wrong with this picture? I boggled my mind how expensive it must have been. And maybe it's extremely well designed, and maybe it's just fine. But no, I call pass on that one. A Texas real estate agent said always be really aware of what the street names are around your house. For example, in Wichita Falls, Texas, there is a street, no kidding, called Flood Street. Yeah, you can't make that one up. And then there's all kinds of, in Mississippi, I started, taking note of this, and there were streets named things like River Crest and Water's Edge. And I mean, you're going like, wow, maybe I want to get a little higher since this is hurricane country here. Maybe just like a little bit higher, even if you want to live right on the ocean. I don't know. And I even thought, back in the 70s, anybody who bought a house right on the edge of Mississippi and right on the water, because they just had that huge hurricane that literally just washed out the entire multi-level condo out to sea, and they don't even know how many people were there. In Biloxi, when I was there, they had a little monument plaque there because they don't even know how many people were in that building because they all were told it was going to be okay, and they were having a giant earthquake or a big hurricane party in there, and the whole thing just went out to sea, just like goodbye. So yeah, I'm sensitive to water. Maybe that's why the hot water heater did what it did. Maybe it was just getting even, or it was like a dog. Maybe it smelled my fear. That's probably it. I'm not sure. I'm glad everyone has their water story to cry over. I'll let you know how the water detection and automatic water cutoff system works out. I am going to get the water alarms upgraded to something that calls me, but it might be a while. I was looking, the cutoff valve out on the street is 40 years old, but that's the city's problem. The one inside my house, it's just right inside the wall, is a valve that seems to work just fine. There's no leaks, no damage or anything. It twists just fine because I test it every year. But it's 40 years old, so I don't know, maybe that should get replaced. I saw one neighbor down the street had a fancy twist valve, quarter-turn twist valve to cut the water off, and that's probably better than the 1979 Twist-O-Matic, which I have. If anybody has any comments on that, let me know. Let's see, it's about 15 minutes to the top of the hour, so this is James, WU7N. Let me turn it back to Dave on net control.
WU7N, this is Dave, KD7ZYM, and this is the Western Washington Amateur Television Society Net. Well, my particular house, I was kind of lucky. My laundry room has a drain in the floor that goes to the sewer system, and I did have a water pump go out on a washing machine a number of years ago, and there was a little bit of water that hit the floor that didn't quite go down the drain, but since it all was at an incline, it finally made it out, so I was saved anyway from the rest of the basement, so that was a good thing to have. So anyway, and let's see, talking about miracles, what was it, the fisherman off of Alaska whose fishing vessel went down, they recovered him from a life raft floating out in the sea, so I thought that was pretty grand, considering, you know, you're just sort of a grain of sand on a beach, so to speak, as far as where you're located when those things happen. Unfortunately, his partner seemed to have not been found. So anyway, things do happen. And again, this is the Western Washington Amateur Television Society, so let's go up to Bob, K9PQ.
Hey, let me get one thing prepared here. There we go. Okay, so let's see, notes. Yeah, water shutoff. So I'm sure I've mentioned this before. I hate our pipes. Hate, with a capital H and with all of my energy. We have PVC. What is it? The CPVC, which is the proper kind of pipe you use if you're going to have hot water going through. You never want to use normal PVC. So we have the proper kind of PVC pipes, but they still seem to get more fragile with age. We've had several break, and we also I have still in my house some plastic valves. They're not PVC, they're just some kind of plastic, and they do go bad. They absolutely go bad. So with water shutoffs, this was very important. Our main water shutoff was one of those plastic valves that was going bad. I could not risk shutting off my main water shutoff for fear I would break that and then I'd have to call the water department to shut off the water. So there had been so many problems with it, we finally, for our condo complex, for all 75 units, we had them replaced with the kind you described, James, the brass ones with the turn 90 degrees to shut it off with the big lever. And so at least we have that, so that if anything goes wrong, or if you want to have any work done on your apartment or on your condo, you start by shutting off the main water shutoff. And sure enough, when I had both my toilets replaced, that was not a problem. When I had a problem with my sink drain, and I know what it was. I asked them also to hook up my dishwasher, because I had a new dishwasher, but it wasn't hooked up yet. The plumbers I hired are the ones that are condo hires for the big jobs, and so they're very familiar with our pipes and all the problems. They were being very careful. They broke the water line in 2 places because as they were trying to install it, and they knew it was a risk. They were being very, very careful. It just, it's these terrible pipes and it's terrible valves, and so I priced out one time replacing all, with the same company, replacing everything. I asked just for a ballpark price, and he said, maybe 12 to 15,000. And he said that's for everything. That's for cutting into the wall and patching it again and everything. And that would replace it with what they use today, which is the flexible hose, which I used to think was worse. But here's why the flexible hose is much, much better. The reason why these PVC pipes break is you try to turn a valve and you stress that PVC pipe and you break the PVC pipe. The hose won't stress that way. The valve has to be secured to something solid. It doesn't just hang on the hose. But if you turn it and you sort of tweak it a little bit, the hose is not going to have any problem with that. So the hose there's a reason why the hose is now code and not PVC. And of course the other reason is because people will steal copper, so you know you want something people won't steal. Let me take a short break. Something else I had. My house growing up, we did not have a sump pump, but it didn't have a. It had like a half basement when we moved in, and my dad hired people to fill in the full basement. Now he was an electrical engineer, but he went to school, South Dakota School of Mines and Technology. So I'm sure they taught a lot of stuff about digging and and construction and stuff, because he apparently was a bit of a nightmare customer to these people, because he was telling them what all the things they were doing that were not good enough, that he needed to be done better to make sure there would be no water leaks. And sure enough, there were never any water leaks in our basement. So I give him a lot of credit for that. They were not happy about it, but it made. I grew up in that basement. We had with 7 kids. We had we called it the dorm, which was a big room that we had 4 beds in. So me and 3 of my brothers slept down there for most of my childhood. That's where I was, and which, by the way, was awesome in the summer, because when it was hot, I don't like it to be warm. I don't sleep well when it's too warm at all, and it was fantastic because it was always cool down there in the summer. Sometimes a little cooler than we wanted in the winter, but not a big deal. Yeah, I guess that's good for now. I don't know if it'll come back to me again, but I'll send it on. This is Bob, K9PU, back to net.
Thanks for that. And again, this is the Western Washington Amateur Television Society net on the 08 machine. I'm Dave, KD7CYM. Well, let's go to Richard in Kent, K7ITX.
Okay, well, so I mentioned some problematic medical things coming up, but it's not really that big of a deal. Problematic in that it was a good excuse not to travel with the guys down to Willows, California, where, in fact, they sent me a picture of a brand new 2-liter engine they were dropping into the car today, the 69 Datsun 510, replacing the 1800cc, just to be more competitive. They're going to a track called Thunder Hill, and they were bugging me about going, but I don't know. It just didn't appeal to me. It's so out of there's nothing around there really, and I didn't feel like driving back to Sacramento every at the end of the day. Corning is closer. It's only like 29 miles away, but I don't know. It just didn't seem to fit what I wanted to be doing at the end of next week, which is on both Thursday. On Thursday, everything is on Thursday. Start off with a narrow angle procedure where they laser penetrate your iris to relieve pressure. The doctor said, "Oh yeah, no big deal. Don't worry about it. You'll be able to drive, and you'll leave here just fine. You'll hardly notice it." So I'll believe it when I feel it, I guess. And then a couple hours later, I have a flu shot and a COVID-19, the latest shot. Not like Dave, I just had my RSV, and I felt like I had the flu for the next day and a half. So yeah, I hope I don't run into the same thing with the flu. Flu shots usually don't bother me. The COVID-19 shots have never bothered me, but RSV, I was really, really surprised. So I'll have all 3 under my belt by the end of next week. So, all right, well, that's all I know, and I'll just stick to it. And actually, that's all I really have, unless someone else comes up with something that I have to squawk about. K7ITX 73, back to net control.
ATX, Sticky, thanks for joining. Let's go to James, WU7N.
Been a good net tonight. Thank you very much for participating. If anyone's still out there listening, I appreciate people that can even just drop in and say hi. I am pretty busy here for the next couple of weeks doing continuing education for a professional certification that I need to renew. So I'll be doing my best to make it in future nets. Actually, after doing that for 8 hours a day, I think my brain has melted, and it's time to get away from the tube for a while. It's amazing. Some of them are quite good. I did see one today that was on all the cyber threat analysis and surveys and such from last year. I find that very interesting. But then I got caught with a couple today that were basically hour-long sales presentations disguised as something educational. I guess I got my one point of credit, but and it's like a bad stock. Once you're into it, you don't want to stop and start over somewhere else. You already got 10, 15 minutes into this, so you might as well hang in there for the rest, another 45. So anyway, well, that's my sad story. I'm sticking to it. Really enjoyed hearing from you guys tonight. This is James, WU7ON. I'm going to go ahead and turn it back to Dave.
7N, and I'm out of wind. This is Dave, KD7CYM. So I'll send it back up to Bob, K9PQ.
It's pretty much out of subjects, but Richard got me going with the new engine in the race car. It reminded me, if I remember right, that was to counter somebody that was cheating. And it was like, okay, well, we got to do this just to try and keep up with this cheater. And it reminded me of something I just saw today. I was watching the Husky football game, and they were, and these guys, this was a receiver and defender, and they were just grabbing each other. You guys have probably seen that if you watched any football, pro or college. That's the style these days. They're just constantly grabbing each other, hand fighting, and it looks like it's pass interference on every single play, and you just wonder, okay, at what point do they call it? And one of the announcers, I thought, put it very well. He said, yeah, the receiver has to resort to offensive pass interference to try and offset the defensive pass interference. And so, it's like, at some point it's going to get bloody, and then they'll have to, okay, if you actually throw somebody to the ground, is that pass interference? But anyway, I kid. But I just thought it was funny, and your comment about the cars and the arms race with the cars got me to think about that. Okay, back to net, K9PQ.
K9PQ, thanks for that. Let's go to Richard, K7ITX.
Well, I too thought I didn't have anything else to say, but Bob, what you said, is so true. And so my brother and I were, commenting the other night, talking on the phone about how baseball has no qualms, or they have a limit to how many instant replays or how many challenges you can make to a play. But it seems like they can challenge any play except balls and strikes. But the NFL pros limit, in other words, pass interference is not a reviewable play. Probably not in college either. But, it needs to be reviewable, just for everything you just described, Bob. And it seems like if baseball can do it successfully and do it quickly, it's not like they don't waste a lot of time. Just review it, and if I don't know, you hit a pet peeve with me, and that's pass interference not being reviewable when I can't see any reason why it isn't. As long as you handle all of these reviews like baseball does, it won't affect the playing time or at all. So hopefully they'll get that straightened out, but I don't know. I'm not going to hold my breath. So with that, 73, everybody. Gee whiz, I wasted all our time up, and it's now 8:59. K7ITX, back to net control.
ITX, and it's time to terminate the net. We'd like to thank the SeaTac Repeater Association for letting us use WW7STR's repeater 147.08 with a specific tone of 103.5 for our voice transmissions. So on behalf of the Western Washington Amateur Television Society, this is Dave, GD7CYM, terminating the net at 9 o'clock. Good evening all.